Hello and welcome to this short tutorial where I'm going to take you through doing a firmware update on your drone. Now, firmware updates are important so that we keep our drone up to date with the latest safety features and also with the latest sort of fun and operational features, because as you own your drone and time goes on, new flight modes and things like that might be added over time. So keeping your drone up to date with the latest firmware is going to ensure that you have all of these latest features and that also your drone is going to fly as safely as possible. Now, there are a few different things to bear in mind before you do a firmware update. The first being, whether you're using the RC2 or using a controller that uses your phone, make sure that you have a good stable internet connection before you go ahead with this. Also, just make sure that your drone has a really high level of battery charge in case the update takes quite a while. So I always just recommend popping in a fully charged battery before you start doing the firmware update. So there are a couple of different ways that we can actually check if we have a firmware update available to us. Now, if we're on the basic sort of camera feed screen, what we want to do is click the button in the top left hand corner, which is going to take us back to the DJI Fly home screen. Now from here we can see that we have a pop-up here in the top right hand corner telling us that there is a new firmware update available for our Mini 4 Pro. Now if there was nothing there and you still wanted to check to see if there was an update available, you can do this. So if you click here on the profile and then you want to scroll down until you see settings, then click on settings, and then here we have firmware update. And you can just click here, check for firmware updates. So when we click on that, what it's going to do is check the firmware on our current drone and controller and see if there's a more recent one available to install. And if there is, like it says here, it says firmware update available. I can then just click on update now, and it's then going to take me to the firmware update screen. I can then start the update and the drone is then going to start updating the firmware. Now, whilst it's doing this firmware update, it might power on and power off a few times as it goes through it. This is completely normal, don't worry about it. So if the drone is basically powered off once the update is finished, then you just need to power it back on and you're ready basically to go and fly. Now, something you need to bear in mind is whilst your drone is doing its update, it can get quite hot. So it's always recommended to put it in front of a fan just to get some air circulation moving over the drone to help keep those electronic components cool. Now, also what can happen after a firmware update is some of your settings might be reset to a default setting. So always after you've done a firmware update, just go through and check all of your settings, like your return to home settings, any sort of safety settings, camera settings, things like that, because some firmware updates can reset these settings and then you could be out flying and then realize, hang on, something isn't how I left it. And that's because after the update, some of these settings have been reset back to their defaults. So just check that before you head out to fly. And doing a firmware update is pretty straightforward. So once it's updated, you can just go out there and enjoy any of the new features that might have come with that firmware update. If you've gained value from this video, consider becoming a member on Patreon, as it's one of the best ways to support the work that I'm doing here. Now, I actually also have a complete drone videography course, which will take you from where you are now all the way to an advanced drone pilot and a cinematic genius. Now, it's literally already transforming people's flying and footage, and it will do exactly the same for you. Now, I've actually also started a weekly newsletter giving you the latest drone news, hot tips and discounts, and you can find all of this linked in the video description down below. And whilst you're down there, make sure to tap the subscribe button for more videos like this. You should go and check out this video next. Thank you so much for watching. Have an amazing day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.